Hi, Bill Henshaw here again, your walking constitution from San Francisco. And this is another video in the new year with a lot of exciting events going on here. And change is still working their way through the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm pleased with developments there, as I just said in my last video, and pleased in general with the direction I'm going. And among other things, I've just created a stunning new writ of habeas corpus, and I'm willing to feature that to those that have a serious interest in uh, getting me some investment capital here. I could use it. I'm doing things that they've never seen in the U.S. Supreme Court or I think anywhere else. But the justices today are going to get what we're doing. They understand, first time in 90 years, and I'm ahead of the curve here with the U.S. Supreme Court. That's a really good position to be in because they're doing things like they were doing 150 years ago. And yes, something old is new again here, because of the rulings they're making, especially against civil rights, the administrative state, and things of this type, because they realize, that we have rights out here. The government doesn't own us. What the government thinks is we're all 14th Amendment citizens, and yet I can prove a cappella off the top of my head the 14th Amendment not only doesn't exist, it never did. And that's the only jurisdiction they have in their courts. And a lot more than just that. I mean, I've got 230 years up here a cappella. And if I had that video from my South Carolina case 7 years ago when I stopped them cold in 60 seconds, that's a hell of an investment maker there because they didn't know what to do. Never seen anything like that. I came there, they hauled me across the country in four different federal unmarked military aircraft. Took them 2 months. Could have got there eight hours on TWA. And they finally get me in there to the arraignment, and I'm manacled hand and foot in a red jail suit, which I later found out they used for murderers. And they read the charge practicing law without a license, and I laughed. And I said, the problem is I don't practice it, I get it right the first time. And then the judge, who happened to be one of the good ones, as it turns out, says, well, we have to be sure you're competent to represent yourself. So I could have thrown up my hands. And I said exactly, oh my God, bark better, Judge Beretta v. California, 422 U.S. 806. The problem with that is the Supreme Court ruled in Barron v. Baltimore, 7 Peters, 243, 1828, the Bill of Rights doesn't apply to the states. Stunned the courtroom into silence in 60 seconds. And like I said, I'm standing there, manacled hand and foot, red jail suit. They're the ones in trouble with the law, and everybody knew it. And nothing has changed now going into my seventh year here either. You just have to understand your rights and know how to invoke them. And if I had learned that 50 odd years ago in high school, especially right outside of Washington, D.C., my life would have been different. Not a word. And all you ever heard, for example, about Andrew Johnson, our greatest and last president, was he was impeached. Didn't tell you a damn thing, why, wherefore, nothing. That I since learned he got impeached, among other things, for vetoing all of these congressional acts they were doing, war acts of Congress. If I had read his veto of the Reconstruction Act of 1867 100 years later, my life would have been different 50 odd years ago. This is the truth they don't want you to know, but it's there, and we now have a Supreme Court in particular that knows a lot about exactly what I'm saying here, and they're doing their best to fix it with limited means at the moment. I get that. But I see the direction it's going, especially if the Republicans win the next election in 2 years. That'll allow Alito and Thomas to retire, get younger conservatives in there, and we're good throughout the 2030s. And now they have a window of opportunity to really do something. So we'll see how all that plays out. But this is the level of knowledge that I have: 230 years U.S. history, and laws, and you name it, a cappella. I can do it off the top of my head. And you see some of the paperwork I've done. And another good part of my resume is that those of you interested, contact me, uwinningcourt@gmail.com, by the way. And I have an 18-page hand printed writ of habeas corpus I did to the Supreme Court of the United States while alone in that South Carolina jail cell. 30 case citations, no errors. I don't know of an attorney that could do what I did in his office, let alone in a jail cell, but I did it. And the difference today, and this is a big deal, now this would have gotten on the court's shadow docket with the current justices on the court, and they would have made a ruling on it. A narrow one to be sure, but they would have made a ruling and sent me home, which in effect they did anyway. They got a call in Columbia to get them the hell out of there. And they did. It took 5 months. It's a funny story I'll tell you about later, but serious investment backers that want to know why it took so long. But there's good reasons for it. But I got back. I never got close to a jury trial. They couldn't have me in there in front of a jury, unfiltered by one of their attorneys telling them the truth. Not to mention crossing examine all these people who committed acts of perjury to get me from California to South Carolina to start with. I mean, it's a joke. It wasn't real funny at the time. Although I never had a bad day while I was there. I admit that. I wasn't in a jail, by the way. I was in a holding facility. And it could have been worse. It was a 7-month vacation that they're going to be paying a lot for, which comes into play with investment capital here, too. So, people, if you have serious interest in that, contact me, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we can set up a meeting, maybe a Zoom meeting or whatever, and discuss particulars. Because I'd like to get something done here, real soon here, at least before springtime, because I could use some money up front to do a variety of things here. And the investment potential is not only astounding, but when you think of the real benefits, I'm in there to try to make changes for all of us. That we improve our lives, our children's lives, and our posterity, just like the original intent of the framers in establishing this Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That's exactly the trend I want to continue. So if we're looking to help somebody that can do that, you might consider to be the quote unquote John Nash of the constitutional and U.S. history era. And if you want to learn more about him, see a movie called A Beautiful Mind by Ron Howard. And I'm strikingly similarly situated in the area that I'm in. Just the genius is what it is. I mean, what can I tell you? I've got a gift, and I waited a long time to use it, but better late than never. So that said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we can set up something and discuss things and see how well it is we can work together and make differences for everybody across the board, except the New York banksters. How sweet is that? That said, remember to subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we get these bastards off our backs, the quicker we get our freedom back. Thank you.